The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
When they died, they wouldn't be slaves no more. They'd go up in the sky, and every day would be Sunday. That's a shame. And it is that 310 years of slave labor that went in, that was my and your contribution into this particular economy and political system. They can give us the back pay. Let's join in. If this is what the Negro wants, let's join in. Let's show him how to struggle. Let's show him how to fight. Let's show him how to bring about a real revolution. Let's make him stop jiving.
The truth will set you free or hurt your feelings. Welcome to Melanated Politics. I am Eric Clark.
And I am David Harper from PG County, Maryland. Here we go.
Thank you so much for tuning in, y'all. Hey, what's up, Mr. Harper?
What's up, sir?
How's everything going today? How's everything been?
Everything's been good. We got a lot to talk about So let's go. Let me calm down. Let's go.
There is a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of brothers across the country that's been doing volunteer work. And we're going to see what we can do to go ahead and join that party. The Nevada caucuses, must-see TV, a lot of drama, a lot of expectations with different candidates. Some people were happy. Some other candidates got their feelings hurt, like a very bad relationship. But we're going to talk about that. February 21st, 1965 was the day our dear brother, one of the greatest leaders in American history outside of Frederick Douglass, Nat Turner, and so many others, Ohio's Malik Shabazz, Malcolm X, was assassinated on February 21st, 1965, and we honor Malcolm X.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
sir.
Indeed. I think it's a lot to talk about with Malcolm, but I'm going to let you.
But the bottom line with Malcolm is he's always been a hero of mine. He's always been someone I've looked up to. He's always been a deep, passionate inspiration. This man, this brother had an 8th grade education. He was on paper for being a criminal. Okay, he was on paper for being an ex-convict. As I said before, along with Marcus Garvey and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Martin Luther King Jr., he's one of the greatest influential leaders to ever step foot on the shores of North America, and we honor Malcolm X. One of the things he was such an inspiration on my life. I've read, countless books of Malcolm. I won't say every single book. I think he may have written some books. There may be some books out there that I haven't read, Mr. Harper. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, Malcolm X has always been someone I've always wanted to be like. And he stood up, he stood firm, he was intelligent, he came with the facts, and he was one of the biggest inspirations of my life. So a few days ago, on this day in 1965, just a few days ago, Malcolm X was assassinated. Rest in peace to Malcolm X. Everyone doesn't need a college education to be successful. Everyone does not need a formal education to be successful. You can actually be an ex-convict. You can actually have an 8th grade education according to the history and the manifestation of Ohio's Malik Shabazz's life, a.k.a. Malcolm X. So he's a hero to most black men, most black women. There's been Malcolm X days. We're going to continue to push for that. I know Malcolm X has meant a lot to you and your friends.
Absolutely.
Speak on it, Mr. Harper.
I think the most powerful influence as far as in a lot of ways to black men in particular, but to the black experience in America with Malcolm X starting as Malcolm Little from beginning.
Malcolm Little, man.
From the journey to Malcolm Little to El Hajj Malik Shabazz is an incredible journey. It's the journey, like we talk, sidebar, when we talk about like a Nipsey Hussle, or we talk about a Tupac Shakur, we talk about young brothers who started one way and then grew in their life. Evolved. The evolution of having that time to learn, discover, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes, learn from your experiences. I don't want to say mistakes like all of them are bad, but the type of experience you have knowing that I'm going to learn from this, grow from it, and then teach people how not to be and how you should be.
Yes, sir.
And not have to go through it because they lived it. I think that Malcolm, exemplified that to the nth degree. I don't think he's talked about nearly enough. I think we talk about him so much as Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam and him coming out as out of prison. But we have to talk about the father, the husband, the man who humbled himself in taking that spiritual journey in Mecca to Mecca, and all of that is the journey of us.
One of the most threatening issues regarding Malcolm X, El Hajj Malik Shabazz, when he took his pilgrimage to Mecca and he came back to the United States. One of the biggest threats, there was two threats. Number one, when he met Martin Luther King right after that, he was assassinated. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. That's on you guys.
Well, you can just go ahead and say it though.
And also, what Malcolm X did was he specified the reality that poor white folk and poor black folk and poor Asian folk and poor Native American folk have more in common with each other with respect to the top 1% and everything that they've been trying to do. So he was a threat to the power structure, bottom line.
Yeah, and the big part about Malcolm and Martin getting together and breaking bread. Two brothers that they wanted to pit against each other.
Absolutely.
The power of unity is so important.
Yes, sir.
And that is a threat everywhere.
Yeah. That's
a threat everywhere to people that benefit from the fragmenting of black folks, brown folks. The fragmentation is important for other success. And that can go financially, it can be social and economically, and we'll get into this when it comes to the politics in a minute. But that's why having Malcolm in the beginning, starting it off with us celebrating him is so important to what we're about to talk about. So that's all I have to say on that. I'm gonna let you continue.
Malcolm X was never. It just didn't. Now this is. I take a lot of pride in this being kind of like 1 + 1 is 2 facts, but my opinion on this one is Malcolm X was actually never appreciated while he was living, since he has been deceased since he's been assassinated February 21st, 1965. So many of our kings, so many of our leaders, we choose our own leaders. No one has and will choose our leaders for us. Bottom line, get over yourself. But like Biggie say, you're nobody till somebody kills you. Let's continue to appreciate Malcolm. Let's continue to have Malcolm X Day, Malcolm X Week, Malcolm X Month, Malcolm X Year, Malcolm X Century, Malcolm X Millennium. We have Malcolm X DNA in every bloodline running through our folk. Deny it, accept it, reject it, but at the end you will respect it. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
To our brother.
Rest in peace.
El Hajj Malik Shabazz, known as Malcolm X.
All right.
Now, Mr. Harper, like we always do around this time, we always like to focus on what happens in history. in Black history, in melanated history, because history is very, very, extremely important. So let's see what happened around this time, y'all, in Black history.
The induction telegraph system, incubator, and steam boiler furnace were all created by one man, Granville Taylor Woods. So who is Granville T. Woods? Mr. Woods was born in 1856 in Columbus, Ohio, to an African-American father and a Native American mother. Woods was born during the time of slavery as a free man, but there was no freedom for him. He was oppressed until he died. He is the first African American to be a mechanical and electrical engineer after the Civil War. He was self-taught and focused most of his career on trains, so he was what we think about when we hear the word engineer. Granville Woods is credited for applying for around 50 patents. However, for an African American during this time, it wasn't easy. On multiple times, Thomas Edison tried to steal Granville's patents. Sometimes Mr. Woods would win, and sometimes Mr. Edison would. Due to the fights between Granville and Thomas, Granville is commonly referred to as the Black Edison, although Thomas Edison should be called the White Woods. Although he was incredibly successful, he died penniless because of all the time spent in court defending his patents. At age 53, Granville died due to cerebral hemorrhaging in New York, New York.
There is a Granville T. Woods in each and every one of us, and we celebrate the life and the history and the accomplishments and the inventions of that great inventor, Granville T. Woods.
The beautiful thing about Granville Woods. Sadly enough, I didn't. That's my first time really knowing him, and I'm not ashamed to say that I don't know every Black history fact. And the thing that makes
I didn't either. They don't teach us that in school.
They don't teach us that in school. But here's the point. This is, as much as I'm proud to be melanated, as much as I like to hold my Black history dear to my heart, this is very much American history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I had this conversation with my barber, shout out to Trevor, who has his own podcast as well.
What up, Trev? Get it in.
We had a conversation about teaching history, just teaching just the honest truth.
Yes, sir.
And when you teach the honest truth about the contributions that Black folks, melanated people, and indigenous people from the U.S., Native American, what they contributed to this country, as well as Asians too, when we talk about the railroads and everything else, that means there's a reckoning to kind of the stories that's been told and not the truth. So it's fascinating because when people, especially the youth, young folks, start getting access, as well as, people older, start getting access and start really learning on their own the facts of our contributions and how we built this country, then there's going to have to be some type of, I don't want to say reckoning, some type of coming, a moment.
If you don't do your own research on Black inventors, if you don't do your own research on brothers like Granville T. Woods, who invented what they call the third rail, who invented he was one of the first, basically the first Black engineer.
Right.
Okay. He had 60 patents. You dig?
Right.
For his inventions.
Right.
And he was a great brother. Unfortunately, he died penniless because he was sued for a lot of his patents that he was unable to go ahead and put his name on the paperwork because at that time and now they had something with what the young people call haters.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Granville T. Woods. And we honor him. I said on our last show, bro, it was at one point in time in my life, it was clout chasers.
Thank you, clout chasers. Thank you,
clout chasers. Chase your own dreams and your own success. You know one of my spots.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually about 20 or 30, but it was about 15 of them I was hanging out with before I pulled up and
they
opened the gate and did the show. Exactly. But we need to put our own energy into brothers like Granville T. Woods and brothers like that who have done so much to advance America and the African American community via inventions and just making certain that the way America works, we've had our stamp. We have our stamp on everything. We build the White House. We did the walkie-talkie.
Right.
We did, the traffic light.
We designed D.C.
Washington, D.C. We talked about that on our last show. But anyway, peace to the memory and the offsprings and the family members of Granville T. Woods. Yes, rest in peace. And look that brother up. Continue to look this brother up. Continue your own research. We don't have a lot of time to get too intricate and too detailed regarding this brother, but one of the greatest inventors, one of the greatest black inventors, melanated inventors, Granville T. Woods.
Inventors, period. Melanated. He happens to be melanated, but he is, as most things, you'll see black folks in every surgeons, engineers, everywhere. But one of the best that's ever done it. So yeah, peace.
Yes, sir.
So, can we get into it? We're gonna wrap everything up into this politics right now. So I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna let you go.
The senator from the state of Vermont, Bernie Sanders, actually won the Nevada caucuses.
Yes.
And it was so much drama regarding the Nevada caucuses. So much drama. So many attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So much backpedaling.
Yes.
So many policies that were on the table. So much contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
You have Joe Biden, who's a fundamentalist. You have Elizabeth Warren, who will take Donald Trump down, that snake in the grass. She will take him down intellectually on any debate stage.
Absolutely.
I personally don't think that any Democratic candidate outside of Elizabeth Warren, just from looking from afar perspective on a debate stage, I don't think that either one of the Democratic candidates could defeat Donald Trump because he takes the gloves off.
He does.
He's not into anyone's feelings.
No.
He does not legislate with his emotions. So, yes, the Nevada caucuses, Bernie Sanders won. He obtained most of the delegates. And, hey, let's see if he will continue to move forward. He actually now has an official chance, according to pundits on both sides, according to all of the research, according to all of the polls. And I'm not saying bet your kids college retirement on these folks' polls, okay, and on their information. I'm just saying what they're saying. Bernie Sanders is number one. He actually has a chance. Will he defeat Donald Trump? Fox News is going to say socialism and regurgitate it over and over and over and over again. What do you think about the Nevada caucuses, my brother, Mr. Harper?
Okay, so I'm going to try to do this in pieces because it's a lot that's being said. And if you're watching our show, thank you first and foremost because
I'm gonna take a sip like Marco Rubio, like Marco Rubio at the Republican response.
For those of you who didn't watch the President Barack Obama's State of the Union address in, I think it was in 2000, it was maybe 2011, 2012, or maybe even 2013. Marco Rubio stretched for some water, looked really bad. But anyway, Anyway, it was bad. Anyway,
he took more sips
it was
than
bad.
the big homie behind the liquor store.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of information when it comes to the caucuses. First of all, do you know what a caucus is?
Explain.
Okay. A caucus is basically a group of people getting together. Let's say if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, a Joe Biden supporter, or a Elizabeth Warren supporter, you go in and you caucus and you kind of in a group in a school gymnasium, in a school gym or a church or whatever. Maybe I don't know if it's a church, but a school gym. You caucus and you debate on why you want this person.
Yes, sir.
And then after that, if you have 15%, you take your 15% or more group to one side, let's say the Bernie side, the 15% more group to Joe Biden. And if you don't get 15%, that means you don't get a chance. You don't get a chance to be part of the process. And those, let's say if the Liz Warren group,
yes, sir,
is under 15%, the Joe Bidens and the Bernie Sanders, you get to try to convince them to be in your group. The reason why I explain all this is because it's not actual like primary voting where one person gets a vote. It's a group thing. And you have to have time. It's an hours process. It can take 2 to 3 hours to do this. And so, and the thing about it, I just want to give you guys some numbers. Bernie Sanders, yes, won Nevada. The total number of votes that were, if you counted people that were involved, it's just a little over 12,000 people. You know how many people the population of Nevada is? Just guess how many people live in Nevada? In the state. It's over 3 million. It's over 3 million people. Now, let's split that in half. Let's say 1.1 million or 1.2 million are Democrats, and let's say 30,000 are independents, and let's say another 1 million or 1 point something million, one and change is Republican. That means out of that small percentage of Democrats, only 12,000 participated. And out of those 12,000, Bernie got half of those. So he got 3.6 thousand people to caucus for him. And out of those 3,600 people that caucus for him, around that number, a high number of them were Latino or Hispanic descent. You had percentage of course, a percentage of white folks. But here's the thing. In the culinary union who voted against him, who didn't want him, there's 60,000 members of that group. So it's only a small percentage that participated in this because it's a long process. Same with Iowa. Iowa was crazy because it was the same situation. So as we're going into South Carolina, and believe me, South Carolina is going to be more of a bellwether because you're going to have actual people voting, not caucusing. Voting is one person gets into a booth. Hey, I want that person. That is a number. That's a sheer number. It's not going to be like a group. It's going to be a sheer number of actual raw votes. In New Hampshire, they had a primary. In New Hampshire, Bernie won by 26. I think it was 26%. Mayor Pete ended up getting 24 point some percent. So Bernie won that primary by 1 point something percent. I say all that to say that South Carolina, which is coming up.
Yeah.
South Carolina primary is coming up later this week. The debate is going to be, I believe, is going to be Tuesday on, I don't know what network. I think CBS, or maybe on one of the cable networks. I'm not really sure. We'll get back to you on that. But bottom line is that it's going to be the black community, by and large, to really set this thing off. And it's and history says that too. Before I pass it to you, history says this too. In 2008, Barack Obama won the Iowa caucus. He lost the New Hampshire primary. Hillary Clinton won the Nevada caucus. She won the Nevada caucus. And then Iowa voted for Barack Obama. And that set forth a chain reaction to the rest of the Super Tuesday states. In 2016, Iowa was basically a tie between Hillary and Bernie. I mean, it was basically a tie. You say
right now, it's looking like Bernie can walk in any black club, man, go straight to the front of the line.
Well, they took...
Okay, right now, it looks like Bernie has so much black support. You have a lot of black celebrities. You have a lot of black activists. You have a lot of melanated individuals that have pledged their support to Bernie Sanders. There is a Bernie Sanders phenomenon as we speak. A lot of the older black folk are with Joe Biden because he was with President Obama. But the young generation, Bernie has been riding this wave ever since the very last election. And also, speak on that, and also, before we go, we would be disrespectful if we did not mention that Stop and Frisk Mike, otherwise, a.k.a. Former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, who's now in the race, he done spent $500,000, bro, just on ads.
Yeah, $500,000.
He was finally allowed to get the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, changed the rules to allow him on the debate stage because they were tired of, bro, even if you're not into politics, pull up YouTube. It could be about Mother Teresa or some animals.
Yeah.
Mike Bloomberg or
yeah.
Tom Steyer, they're going to cut in.
Yes.
And they're going to request that you go ahead and take time out your day and vote for one of these particular individuals. Seriously, are you kidding me? So
I had to take
we call, Stop and Frisk Mike, Stop and Frisk Mike, who was basically, anyway, look, the Nevada caucuses, let's let everyone see it for themselves.
I'd like to talk about who we're running against. A billionaire who calls women fat broads and horse-faced lesbians. And no, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. I'm talking about Mayor Bloomberg.
I'm a philanthropist who didn't inherit his money, but made his money. And I'm spending that money to get rid of Donald Trump, the worst president we have ever had.
Let's put forward somebody who actually lives and works in a middle-class neighborhood in an industrial Midwestern city. Let's put forward somebody who's actually a Democrat.
If speaking to the needs and the pain of a long-neglected working class is polarizing, I think you got the wrong word. Maybe it's a time for the working class of this country to have a little bit of power in Washington rather than your billionaire campaign contributors.
Mayor Buttigieg really has a slogan that was thought up by his consultants to paper over a thin version of a plan that would leave millions of people unable to afford their health care. It's not a plan, it's a PowerPoint. And Amy's plan is even less. It's like a Post-it note, insert plan here.
We adopted a policy which had been in place, the policy that all big police departments use of stop and frisk. What happened, however, was it got out of control. And when I discovered that we were doing too many stop and frisks, we cut 95% of it out.
The reason the stop and frisk changed is because Barack Obama sent moderators to see what was going on. When we sent them there to say this practice has to stop, the mayor thought it was a terrible idea. We send them there.
The language he used is about stop and frisk. It's about how it turned out. Now, this isn't about how it turned out. This is about what it was designed to do to begin with. It targeted communities of color. It targeted black and brown men from the beginning.
Man, if you live in New York, you might as well walk up to the police and say, go on, search me, man.
Quick fact.
Messing around with stop and frisk Mike. And now you want to be the president. Go ahead, man.
Quick fact.
My bad, Mr. Hart.
I was living in New York when he was mayor.
Is that right?
I
know you lived in New York. I didn't know Michael. I didn't know.
Bloomberg,
No. Stop and frisk Mike.
Stop and frisk Mike. I moved to New York September of 2002.
Yes, sir.
Basically, when Giuliani, Trump's boy, was leaving, at the time he was America's mayor because of 9/11. Giuliani was leaving.
And he done lied more than the snitch at a gangster party.
And Mike Bloomberg came in, and I left New York in 2009. So I was, for most of his time as mayor, I was a resident of Springfield Gardens, New York. Shout out to Queens, Q85. Shout out to Brooklyn, Bushwick, Bed-Stuy, Park Street, right off Broadway. And then up in Harlem, Up in Harlem.
Shout out to Harlem.
On 135. You know, I lived in Harlem my last stint in New York. But I say all that to say that Bloomberg. Let me stop, because I can. Bloomberg is a totally different animal politically, because he is the worst aspects of the mistake.
Dude, he put in $500 million, man.
He put in $500 million because of Bernie. He put in $500 million because of there's no clear Democrats.
And he apologized for stop and frisk. Is that enough? You lived in New York.
No, that's no. Michael Bloomberg should not be president. He should not run for president. Tom Steyer, I have a different sense of him, because Tom Steyer put skin in the game towards climate.
But to the conspiracy theorists, he's paying for an election also.
He's paying for listen, all money isn't bad money. And that's how my personal all money isn't bad money. All money isn't bad money. So I don't look at it from that perspective. All money isn't bad money. I don't look at someone who, if someone, okay, let's move on for a second. Let's take it down a notch. First of all, we're just going to talk about melanated people. Most black people, the majority of black people, don't feel that wealth is a bad thing. We do not. We don't hear. You never heard a rapper talking about, hey, I want free college. Hey, I want food stamps. Hey, I need government help. We talk about striving. When we look at Jay-Z, when we look at 50, when we look at Queen Latifah, when we look at Oprah, even though we got some issues with Oprah now and then, even when we look at different black folks, melanated people who have made it in this country with wealth, we don't look at them and we don't call them oligarchs. We don't do that. That's a whole nother thing. Michael Bloomberg, the way he uses wealth, the way he tried to privatize, he take money from public schools and put in the charter schools, run the charter, the chartering of our education, which wasn't always the best. The way he did stop and frisk, there's a ton of things that he did for the black community that was wrong. But one thing that he did that was right for the black community was gun reform. He is big, huge. He's probably the biggest gun reform person on there. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. I don't vote for him. So
he tells the NYPD, go search that black dude or that brown dude. See if he has a gun. 90% of the people don't. Oh, gun reform. And he's supposed to be the president.
No, he should not be the president of that. I'm just saying one thing.
I know that's not your point.
That's not.
I know that's not your point.
But let me.
I'm just making a case against stop and frisk. Mike, go ahead.
Let me just say this. Right now, the way the media has blown up the caucuses and the results of the Nevada caucus, and this is why everyone who's watching or listening needs to take it as a grain of salt. The Democratic primary does not start until South Carolina, because you're going to have hundreds of thousands of voters voting, and 60%, if I'm not mistaken, of those voters are melanated. They're black.
Absolutely.
And then when we go to Super Tuesday, and for those who don't know what Super Tuesday is and why they call it Super Tuesday is a bunch of voting on a Tuesday of several states, California being one of them. So that's why they call it super, because it's several states voting, and a good portion of those states are going to have melanated people, black people voting. Tennessee, Alabama, Virginia. It's going to be a lot of southern states. Like I said, California is going to be voting. So Latino, black, Asian, other. It's going to be a lot. And they're going to be voting, not caucusing. Voting is more powerful. And the reason why all this is very important is because I understand right now, and I was talking to, I was texting a Bernie. I have family members who are Bernie supporters. I got friends who are Bernie supporters. I'm not poo-pooing on Bernie. But the thing is that it's very problematic for people for melanated people north of 35, north of 40, to look at replacing a man, a white guy who wanted Barack Obama's birth certificate to another white guy who wanted to primary him.
Okay,
who wanted to Bernie Sanders wanted. So that's the
okay. Okay. Right now, the Lord has placed us in good old Los Angeles.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what also hurts, or which is disappointing, is the fact that a lot of these candidates signed on to the 1994 crime bill that instituted the 3 strikes. You hear me, youngster? You still have uncle's friends that are sitting in a cell, eating just enough food to stay alive, praying for hope, because a politician wanted to cater to his constituency to obtain votes. See, right now you have to have black voters in order to obtain the nomination for the presidency of the United States by being a Democrat. Mm-hmm. But see, in 1994, you didn't need a lot of black people to vote for you. So what you did was you just was a ventriloquist to every crowd that you infiltrated.
Absolutely.
Bernie Sanders, for all your Bernie supporters that you lucky enough to know and that you guys vibe.
We talk.
Good, excellent intellectual conversation. Bernie Sanders signed on to the crime bill. Former Vice President Joe Biden signed on yes to the crime bill. You remember on one of our prior shows, he talked about, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but a big black dude might crack your grandmother over here and take her money. We need to solve crime. Bloomberg have the same narrative in a video that was just released.
Yes.
You might as well paint them all with a broad brush and have a blank statement on black folk, melanated folk in L.A. So I'm real tired of black folk trusting these Democrats because black folks' lives have not changed dramatically as a whole by voting for these Democrats. Because the thing about it is, like our grandparents say, the true test of a friend, bro, how does someone treat you when you're not around? Does someone defend you when you're not around? So they're gonna stand up for you when you're right there. Don't say that, man. You know that we went to school together.
Yeah.
I used to date his sister. Our grandmothers went to church together. That's not a friend. That's an assault. What a friend is someone who exercises the integrity of your character when you're nowhere around. Do the Democrats do that for black folk?
Okay.
So I do not trust the Democrats based on let me just say that I'm an independent. I know you're a Democrat. Mm-hmm. I'm an independent. Mm-hmm. Okay. We put it out there, accept it or reject it. In the end, you shall respect it.
Right.
I do not trust the Democrats. Before I pass you the mic, brother, Amy Klobuchar.
Yes.
She had a young man, 15, 16 years old, that was convicted in the state of Minnesota when she was a prosecutor. Yes. These people, Mayor Pete Buttigieg out of South Bend, Indiana, a cop killed a young black man. They had a rally. He didn't answer no questions.
Yeah.
He might as well covered up his mouth with some masking tape, okay, and then with his hand.
Right.
And then start running around in circles. They have not been friends of the black community when it did not benefit them. And now that it does, all you black folk come out and vote. Criminal justice reform. Oh, maybe reparations. I think about the crime bill. I don't think any one of these Democratic candidates can take down Donald Trump. Whether you like him or not, he keeps it real to those that support him.
He does.
He doesn't have my approval. I'm talking about as a matter of fact and principle.
Yeah, in principle, you're right.
Okay, we keep it real where I'm from. We don't have to like you to keep it real. Okay, so like I said, I think Elizabeth Warren, intellectually speaking, she has the charisma, she has the facts, she has the intellect to get on the stage and debate with Donald Trump and take him down. Will she be the nominee? No. It will be either Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders will never beat Donald Trump because there's too many corporations that make money off of the healthcare system, that make money. Corporations run America. Let's just stop it. The healthcare system runs America. And a lot of these Democrats and Republicans, they sit on the board. They're board members of a lot of these different corporations and organizations. And will they? Bernie Sanders is talking about the redistribution of wealth. They've never done it before. If you don't even know if you don't know anything about politics or American history, one thing you do know, if you're over 25, 21, they're not splitting up no bread with anyone.
Nah.
Unless you're in denial.
Nah.
Go ahead, brother.
So let me first, because you said a lot of good stuff there. Let me first talk about the Democratic Party. I'm a Democrat not because I love the Democratic Party. I'm a Democrat because I vote Democrat because I'm practical.
I can respect that.
That's the only reason. First and foremost, the reason I started voting Democrat because one, when Dr. King got the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and gave us a stake in this country, it was through the Democratic Party. And once that happened, that kind of changed the game. And this is where it's very important.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that gesture back in the 60s of us getting political power, even though it's been a challenge, we wouldn't, in my opinion, things would be worse if that didn't happen. The Democratic Party has a zillion and one flaws, and we'll go to the crime bill. The thing that breaks my heart in the crime bill is that, yes, Joe Biden signed it. Yes, Bernie Sanders signed it. Yes, it was Bill Clinton, a bunch of Democrats, a bunch of Republicans signed it.
And yes, this brother from L.A. still in jail behind that signature.
Let me say,
and now they want to be the president of the United States.
Here's the sad truth. The biggest reason why that got pushed is because we allowed it, as our black leaders. I
agree.
Now, and here's the sad part about it. Our black leaders, because we have to go, our melanated leaders didn't go in wanting to lock up brothers randomly and this, that, and the third. Because here's the truth about the crime bill that a lot of people don't talk about. They did it because guns were being flooded and innocent people were being killed because of crack and everything else.
Do they have a crime bill on opioids and methamphetamine for young white folk?
No, hear me out.
No, they have programs and sympathy and hugs.
Right, but you got to understand, what you have to understand, what most people have to understand is that there was a mission that after we got our right to vote, after we was able to go to every store to eat, shop, and do everything else, and we couldn't be discriminated against, there was a massive plan to control the population.
Yes, sir.
And so a lot of people love talking about Dr. King, including Bernie Sanders. A lot of people talk about, he fought for the pay of the trash drivers. He did this, he did that. The reason why Dr. King got assassinated wasn't because he was fighting for good pay for workers, and a lot of what Bernie's talking about, even though what Bernie's talking about is very true. The reason why he got assassinated is because, one, Dr. King was a shrewd, even though he was a civil rights leader, he was a shrewd political assassin.
I didn't know you was going there.
The reason why Dr. King got assassinated, and it was his last speech, he wasn't talking about workers getting fair pay. He was talking about reparations for black people, and they knew, meaning white folks on another level knew that if he got that rolling, that would change the dynamic of us. So a lot of people don't realize one of Dr. King's last, it was in the church, one of his last commentary was giving black folks land, us having a chance. So let me finish real quick. So after Dr. King got assassinated, guess who else got assassinated from the Democratic Party?
Kennedy.
Bobby Kennedy. So you got to understand that loyalty to the Democratic Party isn't just blind loyalty. It is loyalty because blood has been shed for the movement of melanated people.
I get that.
So what I'm trying to say this, and I'm trying to bring it home now. This is one of the most challenging times if you're a black voter, and if you want, you got to get Donald Trump out the White House. It's a very challenging moment because you have one guy, Joe Biden. Yes, he had Barack Obama's back, which was very important. Because the truth be told, there weren't a lot of Democrats, including Bernie, that didn't have his back, and he needed support. That didn't happen. That's number one. Number two, you have the other candidates who really don't know black voters. They don't know black people. I know Bernie likes to say that he walked with Dr. King, but here's the truth of the matter. If you go back to 2015 when Bernie talked about reparations, he said no, it would never pass. He said it effortlessly, but he believes in free college, free this. But yet reparations is a hard thing for him to comprehend. Number two, when it came to primarying Barack Obama, he really believed that. Now, dude, if you're a progressive, and you know the racial dynamic in this country, you would know primary Barack Obama wouldn't be the smartest thing. The smartest thing would be screaming through the rooftops and through the mountaintops to say, look, Barack, don't worry about your blackness. Go hard. Go hard. I know you're being safe, but go hard. It's not the primary.
Well, there's a wealth gap in this country. It's not because there's too many brothers on the green line selling CDs.
Even though there's no small CDs anymore.
They don't do CDs.
They don't do CDs.
Well, actually, I bought.
Forgive him.
I bought.
Forgive him.
I bought
the brother in the booth laughing right now because he like there's no more. What's a CD? What's the CD? Oh, go ahead, go.
You sound like my college football.
Now, even if you say DVDs,
my college football son, man.
There's Blu-rays and everything. People know what DVD, but CD, what's that? Okay, well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to disrespect. Go ahead. Go back to the CDs. Go.
But there's a what has changed. I mean, logistically, sociologically, economically,
right,
physically,
yes,
for black folk, since the Democrats and Republicans have switched parties according to their ethics and their morals and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you can put different flavors of ice cream. You can put different type of flavors of icing on a cake.
Right.
But if it's some terrible, bad tasting cake, then the foundation is not there. But hey, it was must-see TV. I enjoyed the Nevada caucuses. Let's see what happens.
And we're going to continue. South Carolina's coming up, so we're going to continue this conversation and watch what happens this week in South Carolina. So yeah, I think we have some other people that we want to bring into the conversation, or
we do have someone else we would love to bring into the conversation. Pay attention, y'all. We have a call right now. Let's go ahead and take it. Thank you so much for calling in to Melanated Politics. Now go ahead and tell us how you really feel.
Hey, Brother Eric. This is Norman. Hey, love your show. You speak on in the sense of this, is that every time there's a big election, they come to our churches, they come out, and everyone's talking race. But the bottom line is we never get anything after the fact. And we need to just look at ourselves.
Thank you.
What your guest said was partly correct.
Well, actually, this is my co-host, David Harper, but go ahead.
David.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Listen, what you said was partially correct about King, but also what King said during that speech was this. You need to pull your money out of the white banks and put it in the black banks.
Talk.
We need to boycott Wonder Bread,
Preach.
Coca-Cola, and everything else.
Preach.
What he started talking about is black people coming together economically, and that's what got him shot. Because what got him power was the bus boycott, right?
Right, absolutely.
That was all about. In the end, that was all about money. And that's
all about money. It's the only way you can make changes if you affect their pocketbook.
And he was fine. But once he gave that last speech, right?
Right.
And he started talking about us working together and putting your money in a black insurance company.
Right.
Tri-State Bank. You listen to that speech, and the next day, pop.
Right.
That's what got him.
Right.
So it's about us. We can talk about Bernie. I mean, he's spot on. What bill has Bernie passed that affects that? He's only had one out of 30 years. He's only had one bill that's written to pass. Okay. Same thing with Elizabeth Warren.
I'm glad you called in, brother. Thank you. Keep talking.
And so we need to look at ourselves because we ain't going to get saved by the Republicans or the Democrats.
True.
We need to look and say, okay, what can we do, and who's going to talk about passing legislation that will empower us. Absolutely. And that's because we got to look at ourselves. Because again, it's the numbers do not lie, and the numbers, as Eric is saying, has been flat since civil rights. Yeah. Housing. You need to talk about economics and wealth.
Absolutely.
In 1968, when they got rid of all the laws that the government had against blacks in housing, black ownership was at 42%.
Yes, sir.
In 2018, it's at 42%. It's flat. We got to look at ourselves. That's all I got to say. Listen, I enjoy your program.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. That was thanks, Norm.
Yeah.
Norm, thank you for that comment, for that in-depth, not just comment, kind of like breaking everything down even deeper. And that, to me, that feeds into the point of like why it's a threat for us pulling our resources
The bus
together.
boycott move the needle.
Yeah.
Anytime you affect the power structure economically, it moves the needle. Personal feelings do not move the needle. Emotions do not move the needle. Facts don't move the needle. Raising your voice, lowering your voice, does not move the needle. Affecting someone's money with regarding the power structure, that's what moves the needle. So the bus boycotts, that moved the needle. Also, my brother that just called in, if you remember, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were both killed after they met with each other.
All right. Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and take this next
we got
call.
Another caller. Awesome.
Tell us how you really feel. Thank you for calling in to Melanated Politics. What's really going on?
Hello, David and Eric. This is Kevin.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning.
Hey there. Good morning.
Interesting as always, and you covered a lot of ground in some very insightful ways. The first thing I'd like to make a point is, you're right, David. When it comes to elections, people act like they're at a confirmation hearing when it's talking to black people.
Yes, sir.
They're saying all the right things, but nothing really substantive that's addressing our needs in particular. You know, it's more like window dressing. And I think the thing that we really need to do is just have a specific policy strategy outlined in advance and present it to these candidates and see to what extent will they meet these mandates. Because offering them the opportunity to offer rhetoric that's insightful and hopeful and emotional and all that, that's good for election time, but the track record after the fact is what really matters.
Is there a Democratic candidate, in your opinion, that will take down Donald Trump? Bottom line, did you see any Democratic candidate that will take him down on a debate stage and also regarding the 2020 elections in November?
I think
Bottom
we have
line.
a strange dynamic that could work either way. Now, with Vice President Biden, his support for Obama, as Eric said, is a traditionalist approach. Now, that may be enough to rally the black vote out to a certain extent, and he would, stand good against Trump in that regard. But I think the people that's really going to make or break this election will be the millennials.
Yes, sir.
Because that's where Bernie's main support is coming from, and that's what's propelling him to the levels that he's been at. But how they will follow through in the election,
that's the question.
Really,
yes, sir.
That
will really matter.
That's what you just
said.
said.
And like Dave said earlier, one of the things that Donald Trump is going to do with his intellectually lazy self is take everything that Democrats said against each other, and he'll present those points as if they were his. But at the same time, one thing about the right wing, they will take things like socialism and use it like a dirty word the way they did liberalism. And they are specialized.
Okay, explain that to. This is Dr. Kevin Harris, a good friend of mine. Explain. We have to wrap it up like a we have to wrap it up like a burrito in a couple of minutes. But to our viewers, could you just explain democratic socialism and also how that ties into the Republican hating on Bernie Sanders and the democratic socialism platform? Please explain to our viewers what this guy stands for with that platform.
Okay, I'll make it quick. First of all, America is pseudo-socialist in the first place by virtue of the tax system and how the revenues are spent. You know, everything we have, the roads we drive on, fire department, police department services, we do not pay for that with personal checks. It's a collective tax revenue that makes that available for all.
Right.
But the thing about the right wing, they know how to preach zero-sum politics where they can take a topic and make it seem to their constituents that if anybody else gains, then they have to lose. There's never can be a mutual gain across both sides of the fence. And they will take the word socialism and they will paint it as a way for illegals, blacks, and whoever not deserving will use their tax money. And so they will take liberalism and make it a smear campaign that a lot of people will buy into from a rhetorical standpoint. So it'll be up to the millennials to really overcome that, since they're the ones that propelled Bernie Sanders to that in the first place. Because I don't think we're going to have the policy analysis time to explain during campaigns why America is pseudo-socialist in the first place. So it's going to be an all or none with Bernie. Now with Biden, it'll be a traditionalist approach, and then it'll take something to prepare the brown electorate to come out at the levels they did for President Obama.
Yes, sir.
So you're kind of between a strange dynamic between both entities, if let me tell it.
Kev, thank you so much, man. I think that I agree with everything you said, and we appreciate everything. Next week's show, we got to wrap it up, but next 2 weeks, I would love to get into it, and we'll know more after South Carolina. If you can call in, get into more of like the number, like the youth vote and everything else, because I think South Carolina will be a better telltale. Because right now, media is saying like he has a youth vote, and it's a small sample size. We haven't really seen a huge.
Absolutely.
And let me say one more thing real quick before I cut off. California really needs to start the primary situation, because that's a vote, an electorate that's more reflective of the demographic of America.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
People in Iowa really don't need to make decisions concerning diverse places like that.
Right.
And we'll go ahead and expound on that at a later time. Thank you so much, Dr. Kevin Harris, for calling in. We really appreciate that. Have a good weekend, my brother.
Thank you.
Okay. Also, look, we have to just touch on the solutions real fast. We talked about more black teachers. Okay, we've talked about just focusing on spending more black dollars with each other, upgrading economics in our own community, right here on Crenshaw, right here in Compton, right in Long Beach, right in PG County, all over. One thing we wanted to show our viewers are volunteers. There's some brothers in Syracuse, New York, that engage in volunteering, and that's something that we need to do. I'm talking to my brothers out here. I'm talking to the black men, okay? We need to put the cell phone down and go ahead and get out there and take responsibility for the young men that are coming up under us through volunteering. So before we go, let's go ahead and show these brothers in Syracuse, because they show us all how to do it. Let's go.
Wanted to clean up the community. And so Earth Day gave us an opportunity to participate in cleanups that are happening all across the city. And what we just finished doing was taking a group of about 10 or 12 young men. We walked all the way down Salina Street on the south side. We did about 7 or 8 blocks down and 7 or 8 blocks back up. And they picked up trash, papers, garbage, just odds and ends of things. Filled up about 2 dozen trash bags of debris that was just laying out on the streets. This is a community that they're raised in. It's a community that they are a part of, and so they wanted to do something to help out their neighborhood, and this is what we decided to do. You know, we try to support our young people when anytime they come up with an idea and they want to do something positive, we have to stand behind them and encourage them to take the steps necessary on their own to take care of their own.
We want to dedicate the show. That was a great clip of volunteering, but we want to dedicate this show to a pioneer, one of the strong black woman, B. Smith. Unfortunately, she passed away. She lost her fight with Alzheimer's disease.
Rest in peace.
She passed away at 70. This sister was a model, was an entrepreneur. She had a restaurant in D.C. Had a personal friend that worked in her restaurant in D.C. She had a restaurant in New York. She was she gave opportunities to melanated folks as far as working and everything else. she was an amazing person, left an amazing legacy. Our condolences go to her and her family. Shout out to B. Smith.
Our tongue is our gun, and our wisdom is our ammunition. Thank you so much again for tuning in to Melanated Top Politics. Shout out to our producer Sheena, who has been there since day one.
Yes.
When you have another human being that's on the same level that believes in what you believe in, that's what Black Folkism is all about. I want to give a shout out to the last hip hop show that's coming on later on today. Watch it, or you a straight up square from Delaware. You a square as a picture frame. You a square as a pool. If you don't watch hip hop politics later on, you playing.
All right.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Melanated, the essence of color, politics.
Peace.
War without bloodshed. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace until the next time.